The F1 season is swiftly approaching us, so if you want to get ahead of the game, here's everything you need to know about F1 2024. Now let's start with the basics, the F1 2024 grid. Now this is the first time in the history of Formula 1 that all previous season drivers have remained in the same seat for the upcoming season. So who have we got?
At the front of the pack, we have three-time world champion Max Verstappen and the beloved Sergio Perez in the Red Bull seat alongside the longest-serving F1 team principal Christian Horner. In the Mercedes remains the seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton and his teammate George Russell under the reign of F1 boss Toto Wolff. Scuderia Ferrari continue with the Spaniard Carlos Sainz and the Monegasque Charles Leclerc, with Frederic Vasseur leading them. The papaya-coloured team of McLaren have Lando Norris and the Australian rookie Oscar Piastri, who secured an impressive 2 podium finishes in his debut 2023 season. Their team principal for this season will be Andrea Stella. Alpine push on with an all-French front lineup of Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon and Alpine Vice President Bruno Famin, who stepped in as team principal in July 2023. There will be 2 teams that see a name change in 2024, with the first one being Alfa Romeo, now known as Stake F1 Team. 2023 saw a new partnership with the online betting, lifestyle and entertainment brand Stake, and they will be their exclusive title partner for 2024 and 2025. Their driver lineup consists of Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu, but we do see a change in their team principal as Sauber's managing director Alessandro Aloni Bravi has been appointed. The name that has sparked a lot of debate already is Visa Cash App RB, formerly known as AlphaTauri. Their drivers remain as Yuki Tsunoda and everyone's favourite Aussie Daniel Ricciardo, with the new team principal Laurent Mekies, who you may remember as Scuderia Ferrari's race director and assistant team principal. Those stunning Aston Martins will see 2-time world champion Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll drive them to potential victory, with team principal Mike Krack aiding their hopeful rise. But the biggest shock came when Gunther Steiner was announced as leaving his position as team principal for Haas. Who will be the star of Drive to Survive now? Haas's director of engineering, Ao Komatsu, is stepping up to replace him. The drivers remain the same as Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen continue in 2024. We're sad to see him go too. And last but not least, we have rookie Logan Sargent and the man who is continuously proving himself after losing that Red Bull seat, Alex Albon, in the Williams, with ex-Mercedes strategy director James Vowles as their team principal.
Who are the reserve drivers this year?
Red Bull continue with Liam Lawson, who we saw stand in for Daniel Ricciardo at AlphaTauri for 5 2023 races. Mercedes stick with Mick Schumacher, and Aston Martin will take on the 2022 F2 champion Felipe Drugovich. McLaren have 2 reserves, being Ryo Hirakawa and Pato O'Ward. Stake F1 team, who used to be known as Alfa Romeo if you've already forgotten, will use Théo Pourchaire as their reserve driver, but the rest of the reserve drivers are yet to be announced.
That's a breakdown of the grid, but where will we be racing?
The 2024 F1 calendar sees a record-breaking 24-race season. That's a lot of races. Pre-season testing begins on the 21st of February in Bahrain, and this is a chance for the teams to run their new cars on the track and focus on perfecting those intricate details of the car for optimum performance for the season. There are 3 days of testing, and each day runs between 10 AM to 7 PM this year, as the FIA lowered the timings from the usual 7:30 PM finish. Now, we don't have time to list off all of the races, so let's pick out some of the season highlights. Why not test out your pause game to see the full 2024 calendar? The official F1 2024 season kicks off in Bahrain on the 29th to the 2nd of March, and then it moves to Saudi Arabia on the 7th to the 9th of March. Formula One is making continuous efforts to move in a more sustainable direction, and one way they are doing this is by calendar regionalisation to reduce those logistical burdens, but the contractual and climatic constraints will still be at play. Like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. After 4 years, the Chinese Grand Prix makes a return for the 2024 season on the 19th to the 21st of April at Shanghai International Circuit. The tricky and famous Monaco, or should I say Marmite Grand Prix, remains on the calendar for the 24th to the 26th of May. Like Marmite, you either love it or hate it. Street circuits are always tricky due to its narrow nature and super tight corners, leaving a smaller margin for error and less overtaking opportunities. It is one of my favourite races, I will say. Go hard or go home, says the Las Vegas Grand Prix, as it remains on the calendar for the 21st to the 23rd of November. This GP is all about the glitz and the glamour, and it includes the famous strip within the circuit. Las Vegas previously staged 2 F1 races in 1981 and 1982 under the Caesars Palace Grand Prix Monaco. And finally, the season ends on December the 6th to the 8th in Abu Dhabi. Will we see that World Championship battle run all the way to the last race this year like we have seen before? 2 new locations will feature on the sprint race calendar for the 2024 season, with 6 sprint races in total. The hosting sprint race venues will be Shanghai, China, Miami, Florida, Spielberg, Austria, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Lusail, Qatar. Are there any changes to the format, I hear you ask? Well, there might be. The sport likes to keep us on our toes. Formula One is in talks of changing the sprint race format, and this has been backed by teams and bosses, and further discussions are happening within the FIA. But what are the possible changes? We may see a revamp of the weekend timetable, and there's even talks of a reverse grid format. Wouldn't that be great? Another proposal suggested keeping qualifying for Sunday's race on a Saturday afternoon, with the sprint race in the morning. The sprint race shootout qualifying would then be moved to Friday following FP1. Are you a fan of the sprint races? Let us know in the comments below. There is a constant flow of new rules and regulation changes in F1 as the sport is ever evolving. So what are this year's regulation changes? This year, we only see one major change around the testing of old cars. Articles 10.2c of the sporting regulations have been revised to state cars must only use components and software of a specification that has been used in at least one competition, or TCC, testing of a current car of a championship season. This ensures that teams cannot run any new components of an old car that would allow them to gain data outside of testing restrictions. Another change is that teams are not allowed to start working on their 2026 cars until 2025.
That's everything that you need to know about F1 2024. Leave a comment below and let us know your reactions to any of the changes for the upcoming season.